Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here with a milestone webinar panel. Uh, this is our 14th one. Many people say this one isn't going to be done, switching to this format. But I just checked our analytics and the goal was 1,000 people and we up to 2,500. So I'm pretty excited about that. And a lot of this is for me to shake the game up when it comes to conference formatting because I just don't feel like you should be charging 1,500, 2,500 for Black excellence, especially at this juncture. When we get back right, charge these people these prices, but it's pivotal that uh, we utilize our platforms for good right now. We could get back to the money after all this, but it's pivotal. Like during this time, we have the resources we need. I just don't think we allocate it well. So and that's what everything about Melanincon 2026 is: empowering communities, harnessing opportunities. That being said, I'm here with Cameron Calvin Trimble. And his panel today is going to be on ecosystems over silos, building strategic partnerships, coalitions, and shared infrastructures. Welcome, 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 brother. Introduce yourself to the people.
Donovan, thank you. Thank you to everybody who's watching and attending here at Melanincon 2026. I'm really excited about what you've been building. Uh, Cameron Calvin Trimble, founder of Hewed Collective and Hewed Collective Strategies. We're a digital first agency focused on building narrative ecosystems, massive advanced digital communications, advertising. We're really the people who build your digital ecosystem in a digital first age and use online engagement to drive a real world impact. And also, well known as the founder of Hip Politics. Our 9-year anniversary is coming up in a couple weeks, where it's an organization, media company. We also have a nonprofit associated with it, focusing on mobilizing the political power of the hip hop generation. So, former White House Director of Digital Engagement, almost 20 years in the game, both in politics, entertainment, and corporate communications in a digital first world. So thank you for having me.
That's amazing. Inspired with just your intro. Let's get it. Uh, with all that's been said, though, when you look back at all of that you achieved and all these things you created, what is the through line that connects all of it? And what does building an ecosystem rather than just a campaign actually feel like from the inside?
So say that one more time because I want to make sure I break down every part of
Okay.
that answer. Because I
So
know what you're saying, but I want to. I think there's three parts there.
yeah, I think it is. So you just described everything that you created, been a part of. When you look back at all of that, what is the through line that connects all of it? And what does the ecosystem rather than just a campaign actually feel like from the inside?
So my through line, I would say the through line through this is innovation, consistent learning, and adaptation. Um, I think I always tell people now this is something I used to be ashamed of earlier in my career, but I'm a successful medical school dropout. I actually went to Howard University undergrad and then went to Temple Medical School, did 2 years, which are probably the hardest part of medical school. But I always had an inkling for not just government, but really for communicating, marketing. I threw parties in college and so forth, and I just never knew that could be a career. And now I left medical school in 2007. So you're talking about almost 19 years. And it took maybe a year or so to find my way, but my first political job was on that '08 Obama campaign, and that trajectory sent me over to Congress, sent me into corporate, sent me into entertainment, hip hop, sports, so many different places, public sector, private sector campaigns, and so forth. But I would say that when I say the through line through my career and what has been in my work, is innovation. It seems natural now that oh yeah, we're in a digital first world, like everything is apps, and now we're in generative AI, social media. My first job, one, it didn't exist back then. I mean, marketing existed, but online and digital marketing. And I remember my first job was when me and some of my friends came together to build the Move Makers. I was like, well, I want to be like online marketing. Like I want to be. That's what I wanted the role in our group to be. Our group doing, and I was just doing parties and events. And my what really leveled up my first career at the first stop, when I say innovation, was when I got to Capitol Hill, my first paid job after I did like a paid fellowship and internship was I was a staff assistant slash new media manager. And that was before we knew what digital directors were, digital communication was. Like this is '09 coming out of Obama. Everybody just knew he did something on Facebook and did something, was able to organize. How do we harness that? And so I was in I don't even know if I was afraid. It's been so long, but I leaned into that and leaned into the innovation. And because this is not something I went to school for, you couldn't even at that time go to school for. I've always had to both innovate both within spaces and when I said the other through line is adaptation, is be able to adapt in technology because we're marketing has been as old as time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Market people ever since there have been civilized systems, you've had to market and communicate to your people. But how you had to adapt to the technologies, the platforms, and the audience, how people actually receive information, how they build trust, how they purchase, how they communicate amongst themselves, how you as a brand or an organization communicate to your people and or your customers. You have to continue to adapt. And this has been a fast adapting field over the last 20 years. So I've had to constantly both be part of innovation in terms of innovate the spaces I'm in, be open to innovation and be open to adaptation. And to your second part of the question, when you say how has that ecosystem building those ecosystems versus campaign to campaign, I think that that innovation and adaptation is exactly what follows there. Ecosystems, the reason why when people say like what is ecosystem, they you could think of like an ecosystem in the river or an ecosystem in the jungle, but what does an ecosystem look like, whether it's in politics or in or for a brand or a company or organization, is that how are you building an environment so people kind of understand what is happening and each part of this environment is working together to achieve the ultimate goal. That's what I think an ecosystem really is. And they're much harder to build than just like, let me stand up and do one thing at a time and let's just accomplish this one thing. But the importance of building ecosystem is that so you don't always have to go back to zero. Like when you're doing campaign to campaign and you're kind of starting from scratch every time, that getting from 0 to 1 before you go to 1 to 2 to 1 to, you know what I mean, to 2 to 10 and 10 to 100, that's usually the hardest step. They always say your first million is the hardest one to make, but going from 50 million to 100 million is way easier than going from 0 to 1. And but having an ecosystem in the same way, going from already having different tools in place, already having different systems in place. Ecosystems, like I said, that key word is not just the eco, but it's the system. Having a system in place allows you to build onto a system, allows you to adapt new tools. But because you have people working in a system, and I think as it relates here to Melanincon, and to our people, having a system where we understand how to bring in new tools, bring in new people, how we understand how to share and work together. And it's just about innovate, going back to that innovation and adaptation of new tools, but we're already used to working together. We're already used to understanding how each of our companies are strengths and work and complementing each other's strengths, and cover our weaknesses so we're able to achieve our ultimate goal.
That's pretty awesome, and I'm glad you broke down that, uh, ecosystems, because everybody listening and is not gonna know the terminology, and it's important that we give, that I have guests on like yourself that give tangible and action steps as well as the information that people can need because people don't know how important ecosystems is. Everything I have is due to the ecosystem I created in college with the Posh Standard. The Posh Standard was supposed to be just a platform I made to sell bow ties, but it ended up being a platform I used to give information to my people that I thought that we needed to know. So you came for the fashion, then you got the information because the Trayvon Martin trials hit me hard. It's all these things and laws that I just feel like we didn't know about. And through that, I was able to reach millions of people every week. And I was able to take that ecosystem of people to move them to creating my gala, to move them to creating my nonprofit, to move them to create Melanincon. And it all started with that base ecosystem that branched out into different things. So those that's listening, it's important, it's pivotal that you not only build but nurture your ecosystem. I'm not an expert like Cameron, but through his learned experiences, you gotta nurture your ecosystem. But you also mentioned you are a Howard graduate, a former Smithsonian Director of Public Affairs, a co-founder of Men of Color in Communications. You have been intentional about building within our communities, even as you operated at the highest level of government and corporate America. How do you hold both of those worlds simultaneously, and why does the dual fluency make you a better ecosystem builder?
How do I so this is something that a lot of people see the results, they don't see the work or the what it takes to get there.
Heard that.
I know you know all about that, Donovan, in terms of probably building Melanincon, building your high standard, building that. So when you the first part of your question is how do you hold those and navigate those dual fluencies of like corporate and government? I'll be honest, it's something I'm figuring out every day. I mean, there's things and there's general standards and principles and practices, but I would say like a set of principles you just try to adhere by. So I know who I am, and I know any kind of project or company that I'm either involved in organization. You try to live by the set of principles and rules that help guide you no matter where you are. But it's difficult, especially as those worlds continue to merge. I started in government in terms of like my in earnest the career that I have, even though I think, like I said, I always say I'm a successful med school dropout and was able to shift my career early in my 20s. And now, almost 20 years in, you're like, all right, this is clearly my career and finding ways to advance and grow there. But government is business. And I like to tell young people or people who are always considering like, oh, should I take this job on Capitol Hill? Because they normally pay a lot less than like private sector, or even if you went to a nonprofit organization. I say Capitol Hill specifically at a government level, or if you're lucky enough to work in city hall in your local city, or or work in the state capitol, I consider that the best way to whether you want to work in government or in corporate or in organizations or in like nonprofit, like community based focused organizations. That's the best place to start because they all intersect in government. In Capitol Hill, is literally the highest levels of that government. That I always say every single company and industry has an interest in Congress because whether the rules that they abide by and the regulations they abide by, whether Congress sets those rules or they oversee the branch of government that sets those rules or they fund those set of rules. There's an intersection whether you work in sports, finance, defense,
Mhm.
healthcare. I mean, you name it, technology, you name it, innovation. They have some interest in government, maybe at different levels, but they have an interest in government. And it was a great place to work because I got to almost see the whole chessboard. You get to see the whole chessboard on the governing side and as a communications, like I said, I built my bones in Capitol Hill in communications, both in digital and even as a communications director and press secretary coming up in those ranks. And as a communicator, while I'm not building the policy, I have to know a little bit about everything because I've got to communicate. And so
Yeah.
that means I always tell people I had miles long my knowledge base was miles long and maybe a few inches deep at first, but then I have to go miles deep if something came up. If something I worked for the late great Eddie Bernice Johnson of Dallas for years. She was the first ever nurse, black woman, uh, almost 30 years in Capitol Hill. And I got caught her on near like the end of her career when she was already very senior. But she had established voice. She had she became eventually the chair of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. She really cared about STEM. And so there were issues and things that I had to learn in real time from my LAs, from reading, from our various experts that would come in. And you'd have to understand that business side but then how that applied to government. Now, fast
Mhm.
forward to where we are, where government and politics has almost become pop culture. And now we're in a hyper, I think the Trump administration has taken it to the next level where it's almost sometimes forcing corporate to choose sides, as you've seen with the erasure of DEI, the politicization of so many different words and making it almost uncool to deal with black and brown issues and so forth. It's a lot tighter narrow because I still have corporate partners. I still have to work with corporations and serve them. And so you're constantly trying to not toe the line, but thread the needle because also I have a platform. I've grown a platform, not just through hip politics, even through me personally, through my social media, through being, continued being a speaker. As you mentioned, speaking internationally recently, like over the last year or two, like a few times a year, going out the country to be able to speak and do trainings and so forth. So all of that you're constantly uh, threading that needle, but I had some core principles I live by, and I let those navigate me. I let those like if this is outside of my principles and the things that I stand for, then I'm not gonna do it. I'm not chasing. I don't know if your grandmama told you, but told me all money ain't good money, and there's
Oh, I just had a webinar about that too.
all money ain't good money. So I don't need to
Gotta have
chase
that
everything.
discernment.
You got to have that discernment. You definitely have to have that discernment.
Do you find that, and this is not a question, but listening to you and with your experiences, I just thought I should ask, do you find that you have to like, I wouldn't say necessarily shrink, but I would say more so conform to the different spaces? Cause you done been at the highest of the highest levels. Like you say, you work with Obama, you work with the White House, and you working in corporate America, and you also running your own platforms. Do you find that you have to adjust yourself, or you're able to just carry Cameron Calvin Trimble in these spaces and they just accept it as is?
I think it comes with time, trust, audience, also I would say a little, I'm a man of faith, a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer and faith. I've built a unique career in the politics culture space when corporate overlaps there, but it's more, I would say, the culture and politics that have led into business and organizational leadership in the sense that because I'm non-traditional, a lot of people go to school to be in government or being comms and things, and I always had that imposter syndrome, so I actually worked twice as hard or just as much. I'm always I would keep side jobs my first few years of Capitol Hill, I mean, I love to say my first salary was $29,500 full-time salary in Washington,
On
DC,
the hill.
on the Hill. So at 29,500, I forgot what that breaks down to, but it's like
That sound like
thousand
$200, $300 a
two
week.
thousand $2,000 a month. Like,
Yes.
you're talking about, like and I made it work because 'cause I'm like, "Alright, I'm bartending on the side," and I also wanted to be in communications and press, so I'm picking up a camera back then, invested in a camera, I'm shooting I'm doing photo shoots and for people, figuring that out, self-taught. I even worked on some wedding groups in terms as being able to film because I was like, oh, I need to really be able to know how to film and capture images and that applies to my congressional job always. And that also helped with me working in hip hop and so forth. So I'm always picking up the trade and I like was never afraid to learn. And I think that initially came out of some kind of fear of like, man, they're going to figure out I didn't go to school for this or somebody's going to figure out I'm learning as I go. But how that helped me when you say navigate and bring that into where I can show up as myself now. I also, because I wasn't traditional, I probably didn't know any better back then. So one of the other things I was doing on Capitol Hill while I was there, I'm throwing parties and events monthly, weekly. Like I had a whole little party click crew throwing stuff at the park, and back then it was Dream or when Howard Homecoming came up, and I was working for liquor brands on the side and like as a rep. So that got me like, I got a whole nother energy over here that is fully not government focused. And people got to know me over time as like, well, I know he does this and he works on Capitol Hill and he's really helpful and innovative and willing to work. And I built relationships, consistently built relationships. And so those relationships stacked over time and I've consistently been the type of person I am. So now it got to the point when I worked in the Biden White House, like I wore sneakers, suits and sneakers. That was kinda my thing. Like, I'm a sneakerhead. I got probably about I'm ashamed of it now. I got about 150 120 pairs of sneakers, and I had this little thing where I say I only fly in Jordans, and I fly a lot, so I'm always wearing sneakers. Is a thing I tag on social media and so forth. It started as a superstition, now it's just kind of a cool thing I like doing.
I'm the
But I
same
say
way
that
with suits overall.
yeah, I feel you. But I say all that to say now the trust has been built in terms of my level of performance of work. Now I've got almost 20 years of work behind it. The relationships have built where those same people I was also interns with and came in the hill with are now corporate leaders, VPs, executives running their own companies. I've got at least 4 different members of Congress that are current members of Congress that I was either friends with, were interns, or coworkers with 15, 20 years ago. So now they know like, oh, well, Cameron's always been kind of in entertainment and having fun and but also being serious. And he always wears sneakers and was wearing that. So it's now I've built up enough cachet where and enough credibility to be myself more, but that still doesn't mean I don't understand the room. You know what I mean? You got to read the room and you got to know
Yeah.
what value you bring to a room. So one thing that is important is that never overplay your position or your cards. They always say you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so it's like you gotta listen, you got 2 eyes, you gotta listen and watch before you speak and insert yourself. That doesn't mean you're shrinking. If you're quiet, doesn't mean you're shrinking, it means you're taking in information to understand when can you be most impactful. And you've never gotta overplay your cards and overplay your position. So you're saying like, "Oh, I can come and say whatever I want and do whatever I want." Like, no, if you need something from someone and you're trying to understand, how do I get this contract? How do I get this job? How do I create this partnership? Understand, don't undervalue yourself. Understand what you have, but you've got to read the room, and reading comes with your what you see, what you're hearing before you speak. And I think I've learned over time and consistently learning over time and navigating that place to when to insert myself at a higher level, or when am I just going to watch and observe in order to accomplish the goal? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to whatever goal you whatever room you're stepping in, whatever meeting you're stepping in, whatever partnership you're trying to create, whatever value you're trying to create, you have to understand, you kind of just got to understand, like I said, where you are and what value you bring to that room, and then understand the room.
I think that's very important. I always was taught. I'm Southern. I'm from South Carolina. I was always taught. You represent your ancestors when you walk into a lot of these different spaces, and that just always stuck with me. But Black entrepreneurs and organizations are often competing for the same limited pool of funding, the same clients, and the same attention rather than building shared infrastructure that grows that pool. What has to shift in how we think about competition versus collaboration for ecosystem uh, thinking to take it to the root? And I will also share my experience. Like I told you before we got on, I was excited for this because I've been having a hard week when it comes to this topic. And a lot of people be scared of no's. And I feel like I get 100 no's every day because I have to constantly pitch, whether it's for Melancon, people speaking, or Melancon funding, my events, my nonprofit. I'm pitching. I've been pitching for the last 3 months every single day. And I just feel like the same companies give the same money that may or may not have the same standard that they have for you being a new person trying to get their funding. For example, if I meet with them about uh, helping me fund a program for homeless women to get hygiene products, just an event where I'm handing out homeless for the homeless community hygiene products. And that company says no. But then 2 weeks later, I see that same company, so the title sponsor for a cookout. That kind of stuff is a blow because he's like, my organization and my initiatives didn't align, but this cookout does. Things like that.
You I am, how do I say this? I'm smiling because I get it. In politics, it feels like that. In business, it feels like that. You're like, why are these same companies and same organizations getting all the money. We all go through that phase where we're just like, there's a frustration phase because you got to start somewhere. Whether you go work for, even if you go work for an established company and a brand, and then but you're the new guy, you're the new salesperson, you're the new person. So you're still establishing your credibility and relationships in order to be effective. But definitely, I feel you in terms of having a nonprofit, having hip politics here, and what it didn't exist, and being able to figure that out over time. What does that look like? One, I'm a competitive person. I'll start here. I'm an extremely competitive person, so I'm always trying to win. But you've got to know who you're actually competing against. You've got to understand who you're actually competing against. And the first person I'm always competing against is myself. First person my company is the first company, other company, our company is competing against is ourselves. What was the last best thing you did? How are you improving upon that? Because you got to run your own race and you've got to understand, people will say, what is for you is for you, what's for others. Nah, it can be something that somebody else has or another contract that could be mine. So that could be for me, but it's not just going to be given to you. You've got to earn it. So I am competitive in that sense. But in terms of the ecosystem and shared infrastructure of like, are we competing against each other and our people? It's not that. And you said something about going after the same pool of resources. That's first on us to expand our viewpoint. Case in point. And I'm sharing this here because it's like even as like I just said, I'm competitive and I'm trying to win, and I'm unabashed about like my financial goals, my company goals, my impact goals. Like one of my biggest goals is like I want 100 people working for me at one time. Like I want to have 100 full-time employees at one time. That's one of my like my career will feel successful if I built a company or a couple companies where I have 100 employees. Because if we have 100 people working, that means we're clearly doing something big and impactful. Because 100, two people working together can create a conference. One person working by themselves created this. You know what I mean? Or however small your team. I'm pretty sure you only got 50 people
Oh,
working.
it's me,
Exactly.
and my publicist, David,
Exactly. So
but
you got a two-person team creating this. I've seen 3 or 4 people come together and create companies, especially now we're in the age of AI. So I always said, if I have 100 people working for me, we're clearly doing something big and impactful. And if I got 100 people working for me, clearly I'm making some money. I don't
oh,
might not.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm just making $1,000 a head of terms of just the company, is that there's some real money being made. So I'm not really worried about like, is it every single dollar? But that's one of my goals. But when you think about competing for the same resources, there is that we've got to like this going back to this and us being a digital first world. How we're communicating right now, we're not in the same space and place. The world is our oyster, literally.
Mhm.
Now, what does it look like to actually go get dollars overseas? I just got back from doing a keynote and a training in Accra, Ghana at the first ever Africa Real Estate Festival. Over several thousand attendees, I think 9 or 10 different countries across Africa, developers from 9 to 10 different countries, realtors from several different countries, on commercial and residential real estate, investors, capital partners, government and regulatory folks all coming together. And then I got to go there to talk marketing and talk about how these realtors and companies how they need to really reorient and sell trust, what they're selling, and how they reach not people just in America, but in the diaspora in order to get more visitors, to get more customers, to get more investors. And that was my first trip to the continent. And I was like, oh, I'm thinking about this all wrong. I'm over here chasing these political dollars here. This one company, like Africa is a huge emerging market. It's the fastest growing continent in the world. It's the youngest continent in the world. When I hear youngest, that means you've got so much upside for people who can become, I can become a fan of your brand at 18, 19, 22, that now you're a 20-year customer, 30-year customer because I built the brand equity at a young age. And it's like, I'm used to using this product. There's so much more money that is going to be poured in there. Whether you're talking Kenya, the Congo, Cameroon, South Africa, Tanzania, Ghana, Nigeria, and I'm just naming a few. Like there's Uganda, like Zimbabwe, Zaire, like there's so many countries in that continent, and they all have they all they had there's money going there one way or the
Yeah.
other, and there's money
Right.
from all around the world. So am I competing against thinking about the pool of dollars of just like the few companies I can pitch or organizations or donors or investors I can pitch in DC or in Silicon Valley or LA or mind you, you're not in one of these big cities. You're down in Louisville, Kentucky or Knoxville, Tennessee or Dayton, Ohio. And you don't even have that pool of capital and companies to be like think about what you're competing for. Like the world, the internet,
Mhm.
digital, uh, being in a digital first world has truly flattened the world and made connection as simple as a few keystrokes away, a WhatsApp call away, a social media DM away. And now I have the ability to reach capital, to reach sponsors, to reach collaborators, to reach customers, to reach potential organizational members, to reach donors all over the planet.
Mhm.
And you can build credibility in business all over the planet. So while we're competing, that limited pool of resources of like, you're right, it used to be just your own little pockets, but now you've got to think bigger, expand your
Mhm.
viewpoint.
And, obviously, you're very skilled at partnerships and reaching out to people and nurturing those partnerships. What does those particular partnerships that you have built require beyond a simple phone call or pitch email and a axe? What made them land in a way that actually moved people to move forward with the continuing to partner with you or the idea that you created?
Do what you say and say what you're gonna do, and then do what you said you were gonna do. And then make sure they understand you did what you said you were gonna do. Like, so many people pitch and talk, and it looks good, but are your deliverables delivering? Is your communication clear? I think the other thing about partnerships I've created is, like, you gotta it's that in and of itself, like, relationship building and relationship maintenance and nurturing in and of itself is a job. It's a skill that can be learned, but it's also a job. Whether you're everything can't be transactional. So
Mhm.
I think when I think about hip politics, the sponsors I've had, maybe one or two are people I just cold pitched, but they all came from relationships. Whether people that were my friends, whether people who are on my team had friends who worked in other pockets at other organizations, whether they're like I always say, like I give out 10 favors just to ask for one. Like I am a I give I'd love for that to shrink a little bit because time that the bigger the more you have to do, the less time you may have. But I've always been a person that's willing to talk, willing to show up, willing to give whatever game I have. And
I'm a
eventually,
testament as you are here.
yes, yeah, I mean, willing to give what game what I have, and maybe I'll have a ask someday. A lot of people I don't have an ask, but then if I have an ask, I'll be very forward and very direct about the ask I do have, and try to provide value. So building it's not just a simple phone call or a simple outreach. It is conversation. It is showing up. It is understanding. I think the biggest thing about partnerships that people don't understand is think about what the person you're asking for, what their want, and what is a win for them first.
Mhm.
You've always got to think about what is a win for the person that is going to give you $10,000, $100,000 in sponsorship money. What do they need to show their boss, their board, their members to say, you know what, this $10,000 for this event was worth it? You've got to think there first because at the end of the day, most people, whether they're working at a company, an organization, or for themselves, are first figuring out how they can win. So you need to
Mhm.
help provide value on how people can win. How can how can the program you're pitching, the event you're pitching, the product you're pitching, the investment you're pitching, how can it help align with their goals and their desires? And the only way you're going to know their goals and their desires is through observation, through listening, through reading, through research. Understand who you're talking to. Go to their website. Go listen if they've done interviews. Go listen to the things that they're saying. If they go have speeches or their places, listen. Like I said, you got two ears and two eyes. Watch and listen before you go ask. I think that is one of the key things. And then to me is once something is over, continued follow-up, continued relationship. If people are only transactional, we only relate as we need to work through and when I'm asking for something, eventually that person may move to a new role or you may move on to something else. And then when there's
Mhm.
no ask there, it falls apart. But if you're continuing to build relationships, everybody doesn't have to be your best friend or your closest friend, but you're
Mhm.
checking in on folks. You're letting people know what's up. Like I always tell people, you don't even have to do it quarterly. Twice a year, 2 to 3 times a year, you should have a mass email to all of your contacts, just giving them an update. Don't ask for anything. Hey, if you working on something, if you're working on something, let them know. And also the other thing is consistently be working on something because people, I realize this. You've talked about my resume a lot. That's what I did. I keep this picture right here as my screensaver. I don't know if you can see, it is
Or President Biden.
President Biden and me. It's not as a flex, it is a constant reminder that my next picture needs to be bigger than this. You did that. People are never worried about, are not just really concerned what you did. People are concerned about what you're doing. Don't tell me what you're gonna do. Tell me what you're doing. So you've got to constantly be in motion and working. That's why letting people know what you actively have going on helps to also keep in mind and helps to also build that relationship. So there is a multi-level layered of like the sponsorship that actually closes. I still get no's from my closest friends, people who I know got budgets, and I can't, but I have to understand I have to hold those same principles. What about what I'm offering didn't necessarily align with their personal or their company or organizational goals? Maybe the timing is not right. They don't have full control over everything. Maybe they have other legal obligations to other folks. Um, but does that mean like, oh, it's not F them and move on? It's like, all right, keep the relationship there. Like try not to burn those bridges down because somebody that told me no for 3 years told me yes this year.
I can attest to that. They told me no again, but I've been pitching and pitching since because I started a gala called the Black Excellence Gala. And it's to celebrate local people in the community, amongst other things. And I've been pitching. I started that in 2021. I've been pitching to this same company. They never answer their email, never answer email, and then finally I got invited to be a vendor, informational vendor to this event at this company's location. And it just so happened that the keynote speaker was one of the people over partnerships. And so I got her information. And then I finally got that meeting. And then she introduced me to the money decision makers. And I finally got that meeting. I still got to know. But after pitching for
But you know what you
4
should do
years, I
now?
finally got a
You know
meeting.
what you should do now? That have your gala, send them an email, send them pictures, send them video, give them some level of a one pager of an impact report and say like this has been great and we're going to have it next year. I'm going to give you an opportunity to come in early and be one of the key sponsors. We already have these other sponsors, but I'm going to give you an opportunity early, but here's the impact. And maybe they give you a no again, but if they keep seeing something, people make things undeniable.
And one thing about me, I'm not an expert at partnerships like yourself, but I do learn over time. I'm a very inquisitive person, and I am a hustler. So until a no is just a no for me, and I'm gonna try again next year, and I'm gonna try again next year, and I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna study what you go. I'm gonna go to your events. I have a major platform. I'm gonna repost all your events and support. And then I'm gonna show up to these events, and then I'm gonna pitch again, and I'm gonna meet new people, and I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna keep going, and hopefully results come. I'm faith driven, so God put the idea there, so He'll make the necessary things to make things happen. I just got to keep grinding. Uh, but what you said resonated with me, and like I said, it made me think about this week. But what would you tell Black entrepreneurs and organizations that are often under resourced, like you said, one man operation, two man operation, uh, in terms of their white counterparts? Shared infrastructures is not just a nice to have; it's literally survival and a scaling strategy. What are the most high leverage forms of shared infrastructures that Black professionals like me and you and other ecosystems should be building right now?
Think there's a few things that you can build in these shared ecosystems now is understanding shared resources. So the idea of fractional help. you might not have enough money to hire an operations director, but if you and 2 other entrepreneurs have an operations need, can we all put in $2,500 a month, which wouldn't get you a great operations person, but that $7,500 could get somebody to be working 10 hours a week on each of your companies. So it's pooling those resources to say, like, is there a role or a tool or a technology that we can share? The other thing is like simply how I've adjusted this in real time over the last year of what I've built huge strategies was me starting my company and having different contractors. And I was like, I need a collective model. So I brought in my partners at a leadership level, but now we're opening and onboarding other entrepreneurs or smaller companies who do something very specific. And now when I need to and now in this collective model, we can go after bigger state contracts, city contracts. We can go after bigger organizational contracts, international stuff. Let me bring my collective together. And how do we go build something or go after something bigger than what is just, yeah, I mean, what my little niche may be. Cause that's how I see it. And then the larger your cash flow, the larger larger your contracts are, the larger the business, it allows you a more operating and breathing room. But often if you're a 1, 2, 3 person shop, you might not be able to have enough of the resources there. So I think if you want to go bigger, you're never gonna it's very hard to create some scaled company by yourself.
A wise man once said, "You could be good by yourself, but you're not going to be great until you bring others into the fold." Your dream is way bigger than what you can carry. It's meant to for multiple people to carry. I believe in that, and I'm not going to hold you up all night. I got three. Two of those is quick questions.
Sure.
Uh, what's one mistake that you see people that's trying to build ecosystems and get partnerships make? I'm sure you've seen them all, but
No, I haven't seen them all. I see new stuff all the day. When people are trying to build proper budgeting,
woo.
both of not both of money and time. Really digging into how much the time and resources it takes to accomplish whatever you're trying to do in an ecosystem, whatever this larger project or thing we're trying to do, and what it really costs from a money standpoint, a resource standpoint, and a time standpoint. Um, Because we often I can say I've been guilty of this and consistently learning, but how do I really know how much time this is gonna cost? How much money is this truly gonna cost? What tools and resources am I really gonna need to bring to bear to make something happen?
That's a good one. Yeah, for all y'all listening, allocate that time and money better so we don't be one of these many organizations or black businesses that fail every year because we are needed. And what's one book, resource, or tool for people in your field do you think that's listening or people that want to build ecosystems that they should utilize or read?
Um, Founder, I'm gonna bring this up. This is a book that I've read 1.5, almost 2 times, and I just wanted to make sure I got the author right. It's called The Founder and the Force Multiplier: How Entrepreneurs and Executive Assistants Achieve More Together. It's by Adam, I'm gonna butcher the name, Adam Hergenrother, Hergenrother, with Haley Warner. It's called The Founder and the Force Multiplier. I heard about it on I forgot which podcast, but I heard about it on 2 podcasts. 2 like I listen to a lot of CEO podcasts and different business leaders and organizational leaders. I'll listen to either the clips or full 1 hour, 2 hour things when I'm driving, traveling, stuff. Like I like to hear other people's stories and lessons they and 2 people mentioned it in a short period of time. So and I'm a avid reader. I still don't get down with the audiobooks really, so I'll go get the physical book. And me and my executive assistant, the reason why I found that it's great is that once you get past the stage of like your one person company, whether you have a fractional executive assistant, a full time executive assistant, or you think you need one, and so forth, it really helped put into place defining that relationship because as a founder, you wear so many different hats. And if you don't do any one great, a lot of things can fall apart. So you need a person who is not just taking a hat off and wearing it, but who can help be a force multiplier, who can help you build systems, who can help you build habits, who can help see around corners you're not seeing, who can take your skills and enhance them, who can not be additive uh, but multiply. Don't just add a plus one to me, be a multiplying times three for me. So I
Uh,
really found that an impact. Like my version of the book, I sent it to her as it wasn't even Christmas. I was like, hey, this is required. This is part of, I pay a retainer. This is part of your retainer. Like, this is your job. Read this book and let's talk about it and figure out, is there some systems? And I found stuff that, and it also showed me that it was this entrepreneur who started in real estate and did other things. And it was about his executive assistant who went from a personal assistant and executive assistant. She left his company, came back to his company, chief of staff, and in those roles, and they wrote it together. And it's through both of their eyes and shared lessons. And I just found it was like, oh, this is really what, when you get to employee number two, what does it look like and what does that process look like?
oh, that's amazing. I'm gonna read that this weekend.
The
Uh,
founder and the force multiplier.
I'm gonna make sure I put the book link in the comments when I repost this. But I appreciate your time.
Thank
Everything
you.
that we're
Thank you
doing.
for having me.
No problem at all. I follow you, so I know all the great stuff that you got going on. Melancon started in 2023, inspired by Afrotech and CultureCon and InvestFest. But when I looked at it in its totality, I'm not going to Afrotech if I'm not in tech. I'm not going to CultureCon. I'm not a creative or in branding, and I'm probably not going to InvestFest if money ain't my thing. Like, or if I'm not in the financial field. And those are ecosystems, while we're on topic, that exist in those. At Melancon, when I started, I wanted to be a national meeting of all those ecosystems. So our panels was always about business and finance, tech, Black women in tech, health and wellness, now politics, because I feel that it's a subject that we need to be talking about this year, doubling down, being responsible with our platforms. And through that, we was able to feed uh, 300 to 400 homeless individuals that year. In 2025, when we came back, everything was about HBCU students. I'd had speakers like Omi Bell, Trail Thomas, Sean with the Dag Gang, and even Brandon Andrews with Shark Tank. And it's been a long list of great entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs, and the ride has been great. And but over the last year, over the summer, because Melancon was in March of last year, and we lost a big sponsor due to Trump executive orders. And losing that money, losing my venues, hustling up new venues, then hearing the discourse over the summer on how people with panels, they go to panels as professional development, is getting motivation out because they're not getting the necessary things that they pay money to see, and how much that stuff costs. It could get pretty pricey. So everything with Melancon 2026, uh, with all the things that we going on in our community, I wanted it to be for the community conference this year, where we're not focused on the money, we focus on the impact. And I'm blessed that we have seen that impact and constantly see that impact. And I hope to inspire people, if not for free, like I'm doing, bring the prices down. Uh, you're trying to better your life and you want your community to better their life. I get it. These things are expensive. My venue in 2023 was 50,000. And that's with no sponsor. So it could get pretty pricey. I get it, but the goal is always impact, and I feel like we as founders should do a little more to try to figure out how we could increase that impact without increasing the profit. All that being said, and all that you see, because you also follow me back. What does a platform like Melanincon means to someone in your field and your expertise, with your accomplishments and achievements?
Man, I was, like I said, I was honored to be asked, and I love what you're building as a builder myself. I think Melanin Con and your vision for it, don't be deterred. It's there because the 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 diaspora of what melanin means, and I would, if I would to challenge you, and if I could charge and challenge you with something, is for you to think bigger. Melanin, like I said, I just got back from Ghana. There's nothing but melanin over there. It's melanated people in every part of this world. And so that means there is a way and a shared connection through our history and our culture, I won't say through our race, because race is more of a construct, but through our shared humanity as melanated people, for us to be able to come together and have resources. So what the opportunity I'm appreciative every stage mic I get to talk to, whether it is 10 students. I've talked to 10 students in 12th grade or and been a speaker there, a college classroom, or like I said, or standing in front of 1,000 people on a huge stage in Africa, everything in between. Whether I get to be on a mic, a virtual one-on-one, and I know hundreds, whether it's dozens or thousands, people see this, and then even when I think about the platforms, just even my social media, who you could be speaking to and who is seeing this, I am honored to be every platform and opportunity I have to share, to learn, to give back, to teach, give game. Like I said, it's like I'm not, I'm competitive, but my number one person I'm competing against is myself. Our company
Mhm,
is trying to be the best, but it's like I'm just trying to be a better me. We trying to be a
mhm,
better Hugh, trying to be a better hip politics team, trying to build a better country. Like we're just trying to do those things. So I think what this could be, what it is great now, but what it could be even greater. And I would again, I would charge you to think about that the concept of understanding how our people and our diaspora can grow, learn, share resources, build ecosystem, and prosper at an even higher level by coming together is a global concept. So and global now, I'm gonna go right back to it. Global now is this
mhm.
simple. It's this simple. Let me tech, you know what I mean? Global now is that simple.
But that's amazing. I'm appreciative, and I'm one to always accept charges. So, as we lean back to because this is our first year doing it virtual is so it could be most cost effective. Our first two was in person. I'm planning to have another in person one, but listening to you, it could be on like a massive stage come next year. And I'm pretty excited to accept that charge. But again, I appreciate your time and all the things you got going on. But
Appreciate you, brother.
tell the people listening where they can support you, where they can pour into what you have going on.
So I reached it recently about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago now. I launched a brand that is it just an extension of it's me bottling up what I already know and do. It's called the Digital Directors Playbook. So you can go to Digital Directors with a S, digitaldirectorsplaybook.com. I have a Substack, Digital
Mm,
Director Playbook. Started a social media page and so forth. But the idea was that I've literally got a virtual and a written playbook of all the things that I've learned like 20 years in the game of understanding digital communications, advertising, AI, tech, like all these different intersections. And there's so many different learnings and so forth. So I wanted to be able to give that away. So I think that the biggest thing and it feeds into our agency huge. So it's not just a
mm,
lead generator, but it feeds right into business development. It feeds into my learnings of my team over at Hip Politics and our nonprofit Hip Nation, because there's still so much I'm learning in this playbook. So I would, if I could point anybody anywhere, please follow on Instagram, Digital Directors Playbook. Sign up for our newsletter at digitaldirectorsplaybook.com. You can find us on Substack, Digital Director Playbook, where I'm diving in deep dive. Like we just did our first webinar on clipping and clip farming, because people are really trying to understand what that is and how that works in politics. I think last week we just talked about short form video and the evolution of short form video and what that means, and just diving into like I always tell people, I have to live on the edge of the edge of technology. You might not have the time to live there, so come read my
mm.
playbook so you can understand what to and how to apply it.
Oh, perfect. And I actually watched the short form one, and it inspired me to turn a lot of these clips into short form videos on YouTube
Yeah,
and
my
TikTok.
my my
So,
other charge to you is like we just spoke for almost an hour. There's at least 5 to 7 clips that come out of this.
oh no, every time you said one, it's 10. So it's
Okay.
10 sections that I done saw the timestamps from where
So,
you was kicking the
and
river.
even some of your other folks, ever your
Yes.
folks, click, 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 click. That's how
Yep.
we
Yep. Yep.
communicate. And that's how
And
it's gonna grow and spread. Somebody probably is not more than likely not gonna see a whole sit down. They're not gonna see the whole
yep.
thing. They're gonna see a clip. But
and
one
then
clip
that
will
sends them
inspire
here.
another clip to another clip to another clip. Now you got a fan, you got a supporter, you got a potential sponsor.
Literally just start doing that after watching your video, and this stuff my videos have been going double time, so make sure y'all follow the digital playbook, it's very
Digital
informative.
director's playbook. Digital directors.
Digital's director playbook, a link for
Because
that
I
will also
yeah,
be down in
yeah,
below.
because I would say the point is whether we work together directly, I plan to launch a master class, like not a master class, but more of a training class, a cohort,
Mm,
and just take small. Not and to your point, it's like, could I everybody says, "Oh, get the high ticket item." I never been one of those people. I never had to do
yep,
that. But there's too many people who ask me for advice and I give free. Some of it I'm charging for, but I was like, let me just take can I work with for 6 months, 6 leaders?
mhm,
Very low amount of dollars, but just let me build with 6 leaders and help have them give them material impact. And so people have been applying, and I have an application out there on my website. Whether you go to Digital Directors Playbook, you can go to CameronCalvinTrimble.com. There's an application there. And in July, I'm going to start for the second half of the year. I'm going to start a cohort of just 6 leaders, whether you're like you, me, an organization, brand, or so forth. But how can I, all the game I have, plus with everything my company brings, how do I help you build your digital strategy for whatever it's your personal brand, your company, your organization? I'm just going to work with you. $1,500 a month for those people, which is super affordable because I didn't want to I got CEOs, people pay us 10, 15,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
$20,000 a month. I didn't want it to be that. I want it to be, there's going to be a CEO in there, high rich person in there, but there's going to be a starter, somebody starting up. But it's like, how can I nurture 6 people at a time and give them real time and
mhm,
not a
fluff,
bunch of like fluff or a bunch of
yeah.
taped things. It's like, no, you get to sit down with me once a week. We're gonna walk through different things, and I'm just gonna walk you through a few to really help build your strategy over time.
Amazing, and Imma be, make sure I amplify that by reposting that for you, as well. Again, thank you for your time, brother.
Thank
Uh,
you.
it's been a blast. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for everybody that's gonna watch the playback. You have a blessed night, brother.